All right. Good? Yeah. All right. Good afternoon. It is 6:08 on Monday, and we have a quorum here of the committee. I call the meeting to order. For those who are on Zoom, we apologize. We had some Zoom-related issues, but we got them resolved, thankfully, and we are still able to meet. So we're very excited about that. All right. So for those who are following along on the agenda tonight, that is item 1. It's all. All right. Item 2 on the agenda is consideration of minutes, March 6th, 2023 meeting. Second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Fantastic. Okay, that's closing item number 2, opening item number 3. Chair comments on meeting and agenda organization. So, not too many comments on the meeting itself. Typically, we like to separate the minutes two sections, but today it's going to be smaller. Initially, it's a smaller meeting. I just added in 1 item. So, I'll stay on that. So, with that, we're going to close item 3 on the agenda. And we're going to move to item number 4 on the agenda, which is public comments within jurisdiction of this committee. With those, anyone in the room itself first, and then we will go to Zoom. So, yes, please come forward. Please go to the podium and let us know your name.
I'm Matt Olson, town chairman for the town of Winchester. I'm here to comment on item number 11, the policy change concerning the use of sheriff's department patrol cars 41, 141, 10. And I would like to voice my support for that policy change. We do not, I shouldn't say we don't get enough support in the towns, but it is difficult to get enough support in the towns. So anything that would free up patrol officers would be highly supported by the town of Winchester. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Okay, with that, anyone on Zoom who would like to speak? Okay, with that, I don't know. No. Okay, good. All right. With that, we have no additional comments this evening from the public. So we are going to close item number 4 on the agenda and move to item 5 on the agenda. Communications shared by committee members. And I'm actually going to make one comment that I probably should have made during my item number 3, and it relates to the meeting itself. We've gotten feedback that from a Zoom point of view and from a recording point of view, that it's hard to hear some of the members. They can hear me just fine, it's fantastic. But other members are a little more difficult to hear. So I've spoken with, I just spoke with a county executive, and I'm going to be reaching out to my caller and see if they could test the microphones that are up there. Perhaps the microphones, which are the silver little discs up there, are not working entirely, or in the short, I don't know. But in the meantime, when we do make comments, you don't have to yell. No, unless you want to, I suppose. And with that, but just project a little bit, you know, that, and hopefully that'll pick up until we can figure out what's going on. Okay. With that, any other communications? Supervisor Flo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the task force on committee restructuring had its organizational meeting on the 9th, the county administration building. We elected the chair, I was elected chairman, and then Supervisor Defferding was elected vice chairman. The meeting was mostly spent on figuring out what is our scope, what are we trying to do, our mandate from the county board and from this committee, and timelines to report our findings. Should we involve outside parties like the Wisconsin Counties Association, as we look for a committee solution that is tailored to Winnebago. So those are the highlights of the meeting. Our next meeting is going to be on April 27th at 6 o'clock at the building in room 1. See you guys there if you're interested, and we will be kind of discussing the things of what we can do, what can be put together, and explore that a little bit more, what we should possibly combine, what we should leave alone. And that will be the objective for the next few meetings. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, we will come up with some form of solution and present it to you. So, thank you.
Great. And it would be nice that as we go along, that we can give this group an update, just a progress update, especially since I'm actually the only person that's not on that. So, any other comments? Supervisor Defferding?
Yes. So on April 5th, there will be first NACO Justice and Public Safety Committee call. Yeah, April 5th is will be the first NACO Justice and Public Safety Committee's phone call. Legislative meeting on conference in Washington, D.C. And the one agenda item that they're going to have on that is an update and overview regarding and the Blue Campaign is a national public awareness campaign designed to educate public, law enforcement, and other industry partners to recognize the indicators of human. And April is something called Awareness Month, and this very much falls in line with that. This is something I've already reiterated at the company board on April 21st. I will be investing with John Matthews to for the State of Wisconsin's Mental Health Summit, and Attorney General John Call will be there, as well as Fond du Lac District Attorney Tony will be there, as well as other people from health services will be there to discuss what we can do with regards to mental health, and those that are specifically mental health involved in the criminal justice system. How you can do specifically with them, how the state can do an all-day meeting. We'll start early in the morning, and we'll go until about 4:30 or 5. And looking forward to that. Because of that, unfortunately, I will be missing the Safe Streets Initiative meeting. But Supervisor Flo will be there. What happened?
Supervisor, you're good? I'll make sure you're okay. All right. It's still. All right, so with that, we're going to close item number 5 on the agenda. Moving to item number 6 on the agenda, which is an update on pathology changes and things specific from the medical examiner's office. Well done.
Supervisors, just figured I'd kind of give you an update on what's going on with our office. I'm sure watching the news, everybody knows that over the last month, things have been a little hectic for us and the sheriff's department. So far this year, we're at 3 homicides. We had some involvement in the officer involved, non-fatal though. We have 2 suicides so far this year, so thankfully that number is way down. But the overdoses, we are at 3 confirmed and 10 pending. 7 of those 10 pending, we actually have the toxicology back on them, just waiting on the reports. 7 of those are going to be overdoses. So essentially we're at 10 confirmed then and 3 pending. 9 of the 10 confirmed all involved fentanyl within the substances. Also, we have built a new relationship I should say rebuilt with Dr. Ryan Peterson. He was the, chief technologist for Milwaukee County. He left, Milwaukee a few months ago and went out on his own private. So we've been working when Contact is not available. So he has done 8 of our autopsies so far this year. Down in Walworth County, so it's kind of a shock. But at least families, are not waiting that 9, 10, 12 days for their autopsies get done. So now at least we have another technologist that we can work with. So far we are his only referral county, but he will start opening up to other counties. Outside of that, as far as the work goes, Michael probably answered that a little bit better, but I guess they're working with the city on some design issues.
Well, we're going through the, plan review with the city right now, and finishing up some final design issues that we've got on the board.
And then the last thing that I had was the bereavement coordinator position was posted on March 16th. Today we have 8 applicants that gone through, and a few of them have been good. And I know that there's a couple more that are coming in. Hopefully within the next week or 2, we can start setting up and getting people interviewed.
What would be the more than on that specific area? Do you feel like we are on track? Or do
We're a little bit behind.
we're behind?
Yeah.
We say that a little behind, what does that mean? Like, we were a couple months.
We're probably about maybe a month behind.
Oh, hold on. Are there any other questions for?
It's hard to say because I'm hoping, we're up to 12, potentially 15 in 3 months, and that's 40 some, but we could hopefully have a few months for things. So it's hard to say. If it keeps going this way, then we are gonna have the highest year that we've ever had.
Is it summer typically you see more than?
Not necessarily. Last year, I want to say it was more towards the summer. The year before that, it was Thanksgiving through the end of the year and going into the next summer. Part of it too, I think is what product is coming in. So, are we getting what they consider a bad batch?
No, I was gonna, the attorney general.
I did provide a bunch of information and data to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, usually when this happens, it comes in waves, and it's usually as a bad batch, as much as I hate to say it right now. And the hard thing about it is when that happens, when we see that spike, if we advertise out there that there's a bad batch, people will actually search it out more. The people want to find them because it's closer to, and what they're looking for. So it's very hard for us to even message them when we see that stuff.
They're not the only county. We'll talk about it.
Talking about suicides that suicides are actually down, what do we typically see?
Last year, last year we had 23. Previous to that, we had 20. We're in the March already.
From the holidays are coming.
There's no rhyme or reason to it, if that goes in waves as well.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You mentioned, the statistics. You know that I've been watching those really closely. You said that fentanyl is with most of them. Is there a common substance with that? You know, we're talking heroin or more of a methamphetamine?
Last, if you would have asked me last year, I would have said methamphetamine. This year, it is all over. And we're starting to see heroin from the and stuff where that has been not prevalent before. But cocaine, straight fentanyl. Probably substance. So we're seeing a lot of substances. Yeah, we have some that are just straight.
It's also so intentional. Yeah, I mean, I thought most of this was just,
I think it was accidental, you know, I don't think they were using, and it,
okay, trying to be useful.
right, I think they didn't know what they were getting. And even, I mean, the fentanyl testers are great, they're able to say that there's fentanyl in the product, but if they're not able to tell you how much, you know, you need quantitative of the product.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, that closes item number 6. The next item, item number 7, is consideration vote resolution authorized 3-year extension for land records life cycle contract, register of deeds, and so on.
Hello. So, the monthly renewal for my life cycle contract with Silver Technology. Usually it's a 3% increase. This time around it will be a 2% increase. So I did have them drop that down. And also what they did have the last contract, we adjusted our Laredo amounts as to what we could charge our customers, and they also adjusted that back down. So I feel it's a really good contract for the next 3 years. So I'm happy with what I was able to negotiate with them, and I'm hoping that you guys will accept.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to move to accept accept resolution authorized 3-year extension of land records contract. Ready? We have a second. Any discussion, questions? No?
She answered them for me.
Okay, so with that, all in favor say aye. Opposed? That passes.
Okay, thank you. And just as long as we're here, because I rarely would come, I just wanted to update you, if I have time.
Okay.
The Daniels law on the federal level did pass through. And because Register of Deeds Office falls under the law that we can sell our contracts to companies to sell our records, we do fall under data brokers. So we do fall under under what's considered a data broker. So if a federal judge comes and wants us to shield their records, we will have to do that. We will have a program in place effective as of April 20th to take care of that with this life cycle program that comes with our federal program. So we will be all covered with our office if there is a federal judge.
Just federal.
Just federal. So we are covered by that. So we have that all in place. And the other thing that we are doing is coming up is 70 to 75% of our real estate documents are covered by electronic, but the other percentage is by paper documents. We are now switching to what's going to be called SWIFT, where everything is going to be sent back electronically to the people. So they're going to sign an agreement with us, and we're going to send the documents electronically back to them. They'll have 7 days to open that up and get the documents electronically free. After that, they will have to pay for them. And So they won't get the actual paper document. If they want the paper document back, they'll have to provide us a self-addressed stamp envelope to get it, or come pick it up within 30 days. And then that was starting shortly in April to send out the contracts for that. And then we're also going to start May 1st, going tagless, because our machines that we have are getting outdated and can't get the ink and that stuff for them. So we're going to start scanning our documents and doing everything electronically on our computers, which will save thousands of dollars. We were looking at doing it a different way with computers, and we found actually better ways to go. So we are trying to go on computer and paper. I have a project here that you can put me on. So we are updating that also. So I wanted to update the committee since I hardly ever come out and see you guys.
You come anytime.
But I don't have to. We're all in one spot.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna close item 7 on the agenda and move to item 8 on the agenda, which is update from county executive, including the money in housing and boathouse project. What do you think?
All right, well, to you, these are easy, so which one you want me to start with? Start with the 980s, how about that? So the 980s, bid came in, and it came out. So it came in at $180,000 per year. Which seemed crazy for the 600 square. And after checking with the, Oshkosh Kids Tiny House project, all in, and talking about putting connections, everything else underneath it. Those are all your own stuff. Which I guess is just the reality of the world. So
We had a quarter original.
well, we had yes, is what it usually is. That's not how it works. We don't get bids until we approve funding.
Okay.
Once we approve funding, then we put it up to bids. So it's best estimates. That being said, you know, the policy was made that we were given just north of $1 million to get some housing out there, and we're going ahead of that. So we are going to build 3 of these next to the trailer. Trying to lay out some groundwork and get as much of that as we can within the budget. So as of now, if that's all we can build, that's what we're going to build. Because we need to get moving on this project. We can't wait. In the future, if we had need for over the 5, we could go back then for another project, for another money ask if need be. And we could build the rest of them and tear down the trailer. But as of now, we're going to maximize what we have. We decided we don't have to reopen the bid for this. That we can just move ahead, full speed ahead to get 3 added next to each
Okay, so, couple questions. So we're gonna keep the trailer now. And we're just gonna add 3.
Yep.
We already have, 2 people in the trailer.
2 people, one that's actually been theoretically released from San Jose, so we're waiting for a place to put them, and another one petitioning for release. Okay.
In addition to the
In
2.
addition to the 2.
You already have 2 in the trailer.
So 2, one that's supposed to be out. I don't want to say out. The one that's supposed to already be, yep, supervised, and then one that's currently petitioned. That's where we're at. With the hopes that one in the trailer, will be hitting it through the next 2.
So I understand we're starting best guess. Why were we so off of that? Was it because the pressures?
Yeah.
No, that's the way the market is coming in. And talking with all of our consultants and everything, it's statewide, industry-wide. So, the contractors have the same labor problems we have. So they're having to pay more for their labor. And materials haven't come down from the inflationary increase at the beginning of COVID.
I can tell you from my work with the Oshkosh Kids Foundation beforehand, as part of it. We were hoping that the foundation did this, they would come in, $3,000 a piece. So the effect of that is now over doubled from what we had originally predicted back then is a marker of what we're all doing.
So it's more of a question. Just give me here. So this committee heard the resolution on the based on a certain amount of properties. Went to the county board based on that. If we keep to the budget, but we're actually changing the parameters of the project itself, does that cause any issues or concerns from what we passed from a resolution?
No, based on the wording, I would have to look at the wording, but based on my recollection, that would not be a problem.
And I can answer that. I mean, that's the state statute of executive power. The board is policy and budget. You tell us the mission you want to accomplish and how much we have to accomplish. And then me and the rest of the team are operations, so we try to do the best we can with the money that we're given. And take yours as a.
Right, I'm asking, we allotted a certain amount of money as a board, right, based on a certain result.
Yep.
And if that result changes in a material way, my question is, does the board have to have any additional action? If the answer is no, then great, I didn't know.
No, and at this point, the answer is no. We are still going to try to house 980 offenders on this property and use the $1 million that we have to get the best impact that we can out of it. And I did not take your comments as okay.
Supervisor,
Two questions. I understand about the cost. Is it any benefit, even though it's going to be 3 units, and you still have funds for additional, so there's money already there?
Absolutely.
Is that going to make a big increase in cost in that way? If we don't know when it's up quickly, that's already, we're going to do as much prep as we can. I figured, but I wanted to make sure. I've also heard a lot of the public communities are really not understanding the 980 are legal requirements. And so, yes, is there going to be any kind of release? They're going to hear $180,000 per unit. And you heard the comments, so you know what's coming.
I mean, well, I guess as a young politician, I was always trying to jump ahead of that. And found it gets tricky and sometimes you muddy the water. Our sheriff gave me some really great advice some days. Sometimes, you have to make sure you're doing a good job and make sure that that's more important than the amount of communication you could do or education you do for some people will never be enough. And I think we had vast discussion in the county board when it came to 980s. I think we explained it tremendously, and we will work on another, I guess, response if need be. If the question arises for operating law, we'll kind of come up with a statement. It was really good advice, Sheriff, and I'm trying to stick to it.
I'm sure you've seen the social media posts about it. Thank you.
And to respond to that, I get it.
I
I get it. This is the hardest piece of policy for us, I think, to accomplish, and I think it was really fantastic that everyone was able to put principles about personality over this, and to understand it enough to give us at least a chance to make the best situation we could.
any other questions?
I just want to thank you again for working with the city on this, because when you talk about not understanding the issue, I think that disconnect was there. So I want to thank you for going to laying out to them and saying, we don't really have a choice. It's unfortunate that it's within the nowhere where we put this needs to be. So I want to thank you for going, and I want to thank you for what else are we going to do? We can't do anything else. I just want to take the
Any other questions on the 980 fund? Are you planning to give an update like this to the board? Or do you think-
No,
Okay.
normally because, I mean, once a policy and budget are passed, it's something to get. So, but, you know, you asked me, I definitely want to respect that.
Well,
So,
and, you know, my thought there, especially with this committee, is I understand that the things, I'm not disputing that, but at the same time, this is the body that put those funds forward. And we are the body that's also responsible to acting, being advocates for that. I think from a communication point of view, it more than a decision making, it would be important. And I appreciate you doing this for this committee. Since we were the first committee to hear that resolution.
yeah, and yes, these are the types of reports that we want to get the capacity to start doing. We want to give you more updates so you can understand. We talked to my office today of what a state of the county would look like. You know, this is something that we should do. Should go out there and invite all our stakeholders in, and we haven't been great at communicating in the past. But we're working at it slowly, as me and Doug had talked about. Government will not move as fast as business, but we are moving in the right direction. I think communication is getting better. Yes, it's on the radar. I agree with you. We have to let you know what we're doing as well as the public.
Right, it's an iterative process, right? And, you know, there's a really, one of my favorite artists. He talks about, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And for me, I constantly tell myself, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we need to continue to improve upon whatever that is. Thank you. Now,
What else is a little bit trickier? So some of the things that we've come across were contamination, and we had conflicting reports. And is it contaminated enough to do something? Is it not contaminated enough to do something? The final decision was it was. And we thought we had different really entire food chain, and they got overruled. So there's a lot of extra cost with the dirt itself. Because we have to remove the dirt, and we have to de-water the dirt, dry it somewhere, and we have to move it again. So all in all, right now, it's looking like it's over budget, and neither the sheriff nor I are comfortable coming asking for more money. So right now, it's a waiting game. The sheriff has been talking with me already. I can say this, that we've been looking at the Pioneer Marina. Do we say if this is too much? And do we look to make sure if we can have another slip and do a long-term lease to make sure that we have a spot that's on the water good to go? It's going to be hard for me to justify more than $500,000 on this. It's going to be hard for the sheriff to justify more than $500,000 on this. We're going to kind of wait a little bit. Mike, if you got an update on that, we're going to get it within the money allotted. It's not looking great.
It's not looking good. As the county executive said, we have to dispose of it in an authorized area. We finally, late last week, got, Allegheny County stated that they would be willing to accept it, but it can't have any free liquids in it. And so they gave us a cost of $52 a ton to get rid of it. We've got at least 300 cubic yards to go, and it weighs 4,000 pounds a cubic yard. So that's 2 tons a cubic yard, or what is it, 600 tons times $52, and that's not including the trucking fees and what we might have to do to get the water out of it. What they've done is they basically said we can add stuff to it to absorb the water, like dry fly ash or wood chips or things like that, but then that just increases the amount of weight we have to get rid of. So we're waiting on some information from the contractor on how much it's actually going to cost us to get rid of it. But I'm looking at like $30,000 additional to get rid of the dirt.
So have we started? We started one?
We did some removals because the permit has to be activated and you have to start doing some of the work.
within a year, or the permit is voided. So we started some of the removals of the piers and pilings. So that keeps the permit active.
We started,
We started
things out.
right, because we don't have, in my opinion, is we don't have enough funding to pay for everything that we have to do without coming back to the fund.
Now, from what I remember, when we talked about this was of critical importance of this. And this was the only solid option.
As far as the ball. And I think the sheriff might be better to answer that if you allow. I know last year, I think we worked out a deal for the last 2 years with the Pioneer, right now.
Yes, and we keeping it off-site at the facilities garage during off-roading season, yes.
So it's on the water ready to go during the season over at the marina. So across the river and then down the street.
I'm a little hazy on this. I thought that wasn't really a long-term solution. And if we're saying, I'm just trying to.
Right, but it could be. We don't know. It's, I think me and the sheriff are both, comfortable with asking for more money. This originally came at $277,000. And then it almost doubled. They increased the amount of pilots that we have to do. Mike, maybe you can explain a little bit more some of the costs that went on.
Yeah, we have to do additional pilings because the way the boathouse is situated it's in the railroad right of way and in city stormwater easement. And both parties have come back and said we cannot extend beyond the boundaries, the footprint of the building right now. So the original plan that we had was use tiebacks into the embankment to support the pilings. That's not allowed. That wasn't discovered until after we had everything all designed and working with the city. So we have to add additional pilings. That was like, that's another $21,000. We've got the soil testing that we've had to do, is added up about $6,000. And then the hazardous material disposal is another $31,000. Right now, we have roughly $42,000 left in the original appropriation. Just, as a broad sense, I personally don't have a problem with pending an increase to this as long as it is justified that the response time is faster. If we lose the response time by having to go into the marina, that's where I'm going to start to feel. What is yours and the sheriff's, on that?
Well, our response time really won't change at the marina versus the wet boathouse. What the difference is when we have a drowning or recover a body, we don't have that area to really appropriately deal with that very tender situation.
A lot of privacy.
Yeah, there's no, it is wide open. So that's concerning. Family members should, and, or we should have the ability to recovery and respect and what we possibly can. We're not going to have. We'll do what we can with tarps, but it is in the wide open. And that's one of the main concerns that we had originally and why we wanted to rebuild the current boathouse that served us 50 years. And that situation arises part of the line.
As a follow-up, if I could.
Yes.
So are you moving forward with more money? Is it, much more are we talking? I feel like that's really hard to say. If you have an estimate, we could be looking at $75,000 to $100,000.
And I think we just have to weigh, that cost with trying to make
the best out of the situation using, Pioneer Marina. I don't feel comfortable spending $600,000 on a three-sided garage.
Smaller than this room.
Defies common sense.
Is Pioneer Marina so comfortable with us being, then the question, the other perspective is, there was a new boat purchased recently. Is that boat being used right now?
It will be at the start of this season, and that will be at the Pioneer Marina. Yes, they are. We have secured a lease already, knowing that, the boathouse, regardless of what happens with funding.
I want to mention they've been a great job.
Supervisor Isaac.
Are we committed, to remediate the soil on that, both sides?
Committed? We have to get rid of it. It's in the way of the boat right now, so we have to dispose of it. So the only way to dispose of it is to do it.
What if we wanted to select another site?
It has to be approved by the DNR. And the permitting process for that would take up to 2 to 3 months.
Let me back up. How much money have we, invested in this project?
Right now, there's about $500,000 that was appropriated.
No, I think.
Oh, did it?
We spend
Right.
about 80,000.
Haven't gotten a bill from Rackford yet for the work that they've done, but probably around $80,000.
Are we required to remediate the soil at the location?
Yes.
Whether we replace the boathouse
No.
or
If
not?
we don't move any of the soil, we don't have to do anything with the contaminated soil.
What is the potential expense of removing the soil, to make that, location credible?
That's why I just came up. I'm looking at, my estimate right now is about $32,000, and that's not including the transportation costs. Or, because it has to be dewatered, and if we add stuff with that, we increase the amount of weight that we have to get rid of. So, at the bare minimum, it would be $32,000. It goes up from there.
You have to invest $32,000 to remediate.
At least.
In order to go forward with the project.
Correct.
What is the quote that we have on constructing the new facility?
$465,000.
Okay.
I think $465,000.
What's the note on that?
So we'll have it would be $600,000 to complete the project. So
Potentially. Could be more.
to refresh my recollection on what alternatives we can discuss with respect to that issue. I think one of the alternatives was taking the boat out of the water, and storing it, when not needed.
Sure.
You know, we had looked at that, but the response time would be tremendous. If we were to store it at facilities, which is on that, for us to even have a vehicle hooked up to it, by the time we launched that boat, the rescue would be a recovery.
What do we spend, to rent the, 400,
The marina?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go off of memory, but I think it was about $2,000 a year.
$1,000? Well, it's a no-brainer. Why don't we just permanently, rent the spot? Maybe we can take, several spots so that we can provide for, privacy as may be needed in the future. And, we take it out of the water out of season anyway.
Right, we
I
do.
think that pursuing this issue is gonna be like beating a dead horse. Because you have, uncertainty, in the amount that it's gonna cost. You have reluctance to spend an excessive amount of money for a glorified garage. And going through all this pain and suffering, until the time that either we're gonna spend more than, what we, appropriated and, considered. Then there's a simple solution, which we are, putting in force at this time. The only thing is you don't have ownership of the garage right on the water. And at the same time, can we look for another place to put a garage on the water in one of our parks? Locations. We're putting, $2 million into, remodeling a parks, recreation, like Winnebago, that we appropriate, sufficient space, to locate our facility there. I'm sure we can get down to the river and go up there, without much, problem. I think that there are other solutions other than spending top dollar.
I don't disagree. I think you hit that point. It's just too expensive.
And if I could just add to what Supervisor Isaac is saying, as I think about it, if we're saying there's a delay of a few months to try to find a better site, I don't really see that big of a deal when we're just talking about, another project that we're behind a couple months. It's fine. So I think that same logic will hold true for this. Like, if we're gonna see a delay of a few months, and if we can find a spot that's not gonna cost us, significantly more, maybe even save us some money. I think that would be a well worth activity, as well as, if we're going to go to Marina permanently, as Supervisor Eisen was saying, what can we do to, create more privacy? Do you buy a couple slips and create some sort of buffer, so you're not just, right next to someone? I think those are great thoughts versus us just saying, oh, we're either gonna spend a lot of money or give up. Like, for me, that's certainly feel it.
It's $2,000 a year. And 3 spots, so we got like one on each side. I just did some simple math here, so it's like if we had that for 20 years, that's 120. So it's, in the meantime, we can probably get more better stuff. That's all I have.
Supervisor Paul, out of curiosity, what's this soil?
Arsenic, arsenic and aromatics. So we've worked out a deal where we're getting a good rate at Outagamie County. The 3 counties share landfills. And Outagamie County is the hazardous waste landfill for us to take it. If we would go someplace else, it would probably be Waste Management in Berlin, which they have no vested interest in helping us. So the tipping fees there would probably be more expensive.
So arsenic is, I don't know this, but is that a paper industry thing?
No, that's a granite substrate problem.
Got it.
Wisconsin is a hotspot for arsenic in the entire state.
I guess if we're looking, and this is, I guess, one of the, if we're looking at another site, what are we going to do? Exactly, and say, hey, we did for this. Well, our garage, in essence, would we have to resubmit a bid if we decided to, let's say, move it to one?
I would say the DNR is not going to go with them. Existing and envelopes is one thing. One. I would be cautious to put the sheriff's boat out and run them. I'm only comfortable at the premier because there's nothing like a neighborhood watch like a pioneer. You watch each other's boats like that. I would be uncomfortable with the sheriff's boat being out and running and the kids could hold their breath for 10 seconds and get inside. I wouldn't be comfortable. That's a lot of the boat. And that's the only reason I'm more comfortable with the 20 years because there's security there and there's other things. People are usually there 24/7 during the summer and then the boat's out there. I think we both would have liked this. I mean, I would completely give it up on you. You have to see. I want to give it this. Yeah.
So my question would be, where do we go from here? How would we, study this all options? Or feasible, do anything other than the plan and propose a project?
I can answer that. It's simple. I just decided not to spend any more money on it. And then, you know, me and the sheriff have been talking quite a bit through this process. We will go out to the pioneer and make sure that if there's a slot that's optimal for the sheriff, if any money work, it's the best spot.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's a appropriate thing. But to that point, I think actually the point that I made earlier as well, communication. So I do feel like this committee needs to know what that next step is. Understand that work needs to happen on that end. But I would expect some sort of update to this committee so we can then have a discussion on if we as a committee make additional action.
We'll also have to,
Well, and I think if we and the sheriff, if this is a decision to make, the process would be stopped. I don't understand what the penny.
we'll put it back in that.
That was this is.
I think that's a reasonable.
And then at that point, once they come back, we can have a discussion on if we as a committee or as ultimately as a board want to address or further study, further give direction.
And I would think the next stop for me would be the facilities committee. Currently, it's a project for them, which might have to go. When me and the chair have a more decision. Definitely. And I think when we do, we'll probably go there and let them know what status of the project.
Okay, then you would come.
And we come back here for a release.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, great. Did you? Oh, great. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. No. Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go like this. No. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you again. Okay, that closes item number 8. Opening up item number 9, consideration vote resolution addressing use of county project conduct. This is being introduced by Supervisor Moran. If you could please come up. And I know you've been in front of this committee before, so I can remind you. What I'm going to ask you to do is introduce this, okay, so we know what we're talking about. then before we can have any additional discussion or questions, it has to be formally brought to this committee via a motion.
Okay.
So we'll do a motion and then we'll continue the conversation. But we do that so that way we understand what we're actually putting the motions for. Okay?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was wondering how this all didn't work.
Right.
Thank you. I am bringing before the Judiciary Committee a resolution addressing the use of Winnebago County-owned iPads by Winnebago County Board Supervisors and outlining the consequences for the misuse of such iPads.
Okay. All right. With that, do we have a motion?
Or supervisors and outline.
Do we have a second? Okay, discussion. Supervisor Hanson.
I'm wondering, Supervisor Land, if you might consider send the amendment to one of the lines, and I'm gonna go to the Corporation Council on the possible language right now on line 28. It says board of supervisors may take such action as allowed by state statute, etc. I'm wondering if you would consider the word will take such action. And then, of course, if it goes, then it could be, it's then open. It doesn't, it removes the ambiguity of may.
That brings it into the present tense, doesn't it?
Well, it's a legal question.
Or shall.
Or shall.
Probably the more legal. So the difference between may and will or shall. May is an option.
Okay.
Shall is you do it. So they are two different things. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I want action to be taken if it's our iPad for misuse.
May I then make a suggestion that the word may be replaced with the word shall?
Yes, please.
Yeah, definitely. We'll call it up.
I have one further, amendment to the resolution on line 32. It says, be it further resolved by the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors that the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors are required to return their Winnebago County iPad devices when no longer serving on the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors and pay all costs associated with damage or loss to the Winnebago County iPad. And as I go about bringing that as an amendment to this, I want to thank Director Frankel for that amendment. And I also thank you. This is obviously something that, I say obviously, I'm not convinced that I recall, but in April, I had to sign about 15 things, and this was one of them. And it got lost in my brain. I knew it's just what I do as something of respect. So there's that. So I want to thank both corporate counsel, Miller, and Director Franklin for their help in having me pull this together. So I've done line 32. The other thing that I would like to see happen in the future, and this takes us to our little official handbook that we get with the rules in it. I would like to bring that up when we create new rules in April, that this goes into the rule book, because I'm opening this all the time and looking at it and thinking, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? Oh, man, I was supposed to do that instead of what I did. And so I find that, very helpful. And I thought that that might go along with resolution 134-11-2022, where you guys address that as a 0.0 and a 0.1. So that's that. And
On that note,
yes,
there's nothing stopping you or anyone else from putting together a resolution before to make that change. And the other is, this is from, personal experience. And probation counsel will say yes, because I've had a lot of experience during the organizational meeting to bring forward resolution. If you are, if you choose from again, if you are that person, in your district, make sure you do it really early and give corporation counsel enough time for that work.
oh, he and I already discussed.
And one other question. Do we want to follow up these for? Do you want to call out this person? Or some, because iPad is very specific about, experience of the product. What happens if you decide we're gonna go to Chrome or,
Or you bring your computer. Now, obviously.
well, that will be supplied by the company.
Sure.
Yeah. So should this reflect, the last thing we want to do, right, is create something. And, have it obtained inside. Maybe we're gonna do MacBooks, not an iPad.
So perhaps that could be something that could result to change the term.
There's also online.
Yeah, it's
Do we need to change every iPad to electronic?
Correct, because you're saying in line 9 also.
So before we do this, before I even, I'd like to read this back.
Yeah, I think it would be good to make.
And I also know, because we had this discussion about Zoom, during the rules, we got really caught up at board on Zoom versus the generic. But I want to avoid all of that. I love to learn from mistakes.
Always beneficial.
Right. So I guess to.
I am delighted with that, yes.
So, the friendly amendment would be changing iPads in the resolution title to electronic devices. And that would also be for the line 19. Yeah. Line 11, 21, 22.
Just so you know, we're gonna redo, we're gonna go through, pick all of them. We're gonna just make sure.
Yeah, I'm just looking through every place that I can spot iPads. So, line 31. And
33, excuse me,
33.
and 35.
For the friendly amendment would be in the resolution. And line 34. 11, and 10, and 9, 19, 21, 41, 45. An iPad with an electronic device.
Supervisor Isaac.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I read this original resolution thoroughly. And I can't keep saying it. And I've been with the county board since we initiated the use of the iPad, finding a variety of computer use policy forms in the last 8 years. It is my experience, opinion, that this resolution is totally unnecessary. Number one, an individual, a supervisor who abuses or violates the policy of the use of the machine is subject to reprimand. And we have seen that an individual who violated that trust was reprimanded. He was penalized. He was humiliated for the board. Robert's Rules of Order provides for censure of a organization member who violates the tenets of that organization. A concerned citizen or concerned supervisor would have brought a resolution of censure to an offender. And ultimately, at the end of the month of April, the offending supervisor will be subject to recall. The public is sufficiently wound up by that behavior. They can have them run again. It's totally unnecessary to resolve and to throw this in front of the county board and then to hash over something that is totally covered by the rules and procedures that we act on. So I would advise this committee to give thought to that. You've been pretty naughty in the resolution, but the fact of the matter is the resolution necessary?
Yes. And one of the reasons that I think this meeting should be advanced is in the electronic policies that are signed, and I asked for a copy of what I signed from Patty, and thank you so much for doing that back to me so quickly. This distinguishes a supervisor, whereas the electronic policy that I signed is for a county employee. Supervisors are not county employees. This is a distinction that pulls it apart. It is implied, I would say, in the electronic policy that I signed. as a supervisor, but I guess if you had to argue it legally, I could say, I'm not an employee. So I think this is better to advance.
The resolution was geared to using the internet. That was the main thrust of that computer use policy. I signed it May 12th, 2020. And I agree with you, but there's nothing that would prevent the IT department from adjusting this to include verbiage that would sufficiently cover county board supervisors use of personal iPads or electronic devices. It is very simple solution to that concern. And there's no need in dragging this through the weeds again and again.
But either way, we still make a change. We're either changing it on one side, which new agreements would then need to be brought forward to supervise. So either way, we're making a change. I think it's better to do it through the resolution.
So what's your opinion? I think it's totally unnecessary. If the constituents are sufficiently riled up, and there's no doubt that the resolution will rile them up, it's already in the examiner. Don't be surprised if you see a recall. One of us possesses that board.
Is there a distinction or again, those two agreements? Because I'm understanding what and I am not an attorney, but I am understanding what I signed is implied, but I am not accounting for it.
You are not accounting for it, but then I would go to the document, and the first line in the document says the computer system belonging to the county is used for business purposes only. It does not talk about supervisors versus employees, but I would assume that if anyone is signing this saying, I've read and understood the policies regarding computer use and confidentiality, and I agree to abide by these policies, that they are subject to what they sign. Now, yes, there is reference to employees here. The title is not computer use policy for employees. It certainly could be clearer, but as far as I'm concerned, based on the reading of this and the wording of it, this applies to supervisors and employees. And I will point out that the action that has been taken is based on the supervisor signing policy. But again, yes, there's reference in it to employees. It could be perhaps looked at by the IT committee. But that's all.
Any other comments?
Well, definitely, I think that this but clears it up that communication to the employee those that where it's not implied out. This was yeah, and ultimately this is up to the county board chair as well, and that will depend on the responsibility of the county board chair. It's then goes beyond just simply what the chair wants, but it's actually within if we work with that.
And this would not be in the code. This is a resolution.
Okay.
Just to be clear.
Oh, that would be important.
That's exactly.
Okay, you're right.
And it's within the county board chair's authority to vet out whatever he believes is appropriate punishment. Or, as Supervisor Supervisor Eisen references the electorate, or there could be a resolution of censure by various board supervisors.
So,
Oh, and can I also, sorry,
yes.
Attorney Conkey pointed out, there was also a reference, just so in line 4, in the title, the word iPad should be replaced with electronic device.
Yeah.
I don't think we can be talking about line 4. Okay, I thought it was just line 3. Okay.
But you're right, yeah, yeah, I said it.
Okay.
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Yeah, you know, I actually also thought, considered that, that's thought, and I land on that is a couple things. First is, it does bring clarity. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like a broken record with this, and I know I have a slightly different opinion on a lot of things. Now, I believe that we're better off being clear, especially as we go into the future with all of the new supervisors we've seen and we will continue to see. I think this trend of having someone sit on the board for, decades, I think it's going to be a more rare thing in the future than before of them. And I think as we see those transitions happen from year to year, anything that we can do that provides clarity without muffling us down in the weeds, I think is a really good exercise. I think it creates an environment where you don't have a lot of guesswork and a lot of interpretations and a lot of misunderstandings. So I believe that this is a good thing from that point. And, the comment on Roberts allowing that, and it's true, it does. And in fact, Roberts would say, that's what we have Roberts for. However, Roberts goes on to say that, but if the assembly itself believes that an additional level of organization needs to happen, a resolution or a rule or an action or whatever, that assembly should do that. So it's not a situation where even Roberts would say that we are not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. We're here for you as a safety net if the assembly doesn't have a rule or procedure, but it shouldn't necessarily be used in all cases if the assembly itself believes that a procedure or a rule needs to be tailored. So I think we need to be careful with that we're not looking at Roberts superseding what this assembly or this body needs to do. So I think we should caution with that. I think it's great that we have that. And, I would say that there are very few people that really understand politics. I'm just starting to dig into it. So I don't know if the assembly but I don't know if the board would understand that there are these kinds of things available. And then if you were to ask the board that about censoring and all this other stuff, it's on them to learn it, but Roberts is very, and it's very complicated. So anything that we can do to kind of help with that, I think would be a really good thing. And the other thing, and the one thing that I want to make sure, and it's one where, honestly, I felt really, I didn't say anything on that board, but it happened last board too, where we started talking. I think we need to stop. We need to talk about what's best for this and the governance. And stop. We spent like 45 minutes talking about a person. And I don't want to even this for this resolution here. I don't want to talk about a supervisor. To me, that's a separate topic. This is about the best for the county and governance. And I would not support anything. I think after a person. It's whatever. I think that's wrong. I wouldn't want that. If I said something wrong or You know, if I offended someone, I don't want, like, no, let's talk about how we can make things better. Make them clear but, you know, I think we need to be careful about bringing up people problem. If we're doing this because of a person, then I don't think that's the case. I'm just making it clear.
Provide the phone, I'll follow up with that. I think the question here is we want to hold ourselves to a standard. We're elected and we're given the public trust. That it's important that we hold ourselves to cases that are in our temporary custody while we serve out our terms of the board. So I think it's important to clarify. Yes, we have those actual release valves, there's rules, but I think it's something to absolutely clarify where we stand as an assembled body and how we want to use these devices and the standard we want to set for ourselves. It's important to us. Thank you.
Supervisor Eisen.
Well, if you want perfect clarity, why don't you just make a rule? Don't have a resolution, make it a rule to put in the county board rules. Then, you know, it's a rule. And you can bring it to the county board for approval. I'm sure, if you have it as a rule, you'll be going with 2/3 instead of just a majority. But I don't think you probably have a problem with that. Bringing the debate here at the committee. So, I would move to, ask the chair, to, bring this back at the next meeting, or the maker of the resolution as a rule to be inserted in the proper place.
That's a really interesting thought. Supervisor, what do you think about moving back to the position as a
Can it be written? Obviously, it can be written down. I would say that rules, this is what I go to find my rules. And apparently this does not get written again until 2024.
No, so we can make the rule anytime.
Okay,
So it comes before this committee, and then it goes to the board. And we need to pass it by 2/3 in order for that rule to take hold. We do every beginning of every term, we have the organizational meeting, where we look at the rules. There, we only need a simple majority for making any rule changes. But you absolutely can adjust and make new rules within the term. There's just a higher standard. And it seems like that's what we want to go towards.
I want that to eventually happen, but what do I say? But can I show you something?
Yes. So as Supervisor Stafford was saying, we have the rule book, the Bible, right? But then during the term, we talked about there can be rules that are put forward, but there is a higher percentage required to pass. So as you even referenced, in November of 2022, there was resolution 134, which said add section 0.0, role with the county board supervisor. So what I did was, in addition to the rule book, when the various board passes rules, I literally put it in this binder so that it supplements what's in there, because you're right, it's not going to be published until 24, but that doesn't mean we can't, that's right. The rule is in effect, assuming it goes to the county board and passes, are the two first, because it's not organization. And it's organizational, normally individual. Is that, so, yeah, so, and again, this was 134. There was, in September of 2022, create Rule 18.8 to allow any member of any committee to vote remotely. That failed. Right? Okay. Then there was one, and again in September of 2022, to limit the time supervisors may speak on a subject that has 2210. And as you just referenced, it was in November 2022. So it sounds like what this committee is saying is that, well, yeah, we have a resolution, but perhaps you may want to consider, as opposed to having a resolution, having a rule. Not that they're putting words in your mouth, but that is a suggestion that is out there that can be done. I'm open to suggestions.
So would you be willing, say, I do think, to Supervisor Eisen's point, you're going to have a much stronger outcome, action, if this is going towards the rules, than if it's just this nebulous resolution. That's key. Yes, a rule would have teeth.
Well, I want it to be effective. Ultimately, that's what I want to make sure happens.
So would you be willing to come to this committee the next year? Yes. Change your resolution, update with the friendly amendments, and change your resolution to be a rule versus what it is. That's what I would suggest.
If that's the general consensus of the committee, then I'm on board.
If I may, quick Kay, what you have here is very good. The thing is that there's no enforcement mechanism outside of just Robert's rules for censure and whatnot. And so if you say, okay, here are the standards and here are the consequences created in the rule, that then gives what you're saying teeth, essentially. And right now this is no enforcement.
And then next term, this would be put in with the current rules. So this would be the rule going forward. So when the new term starts for 2024, this would be part of that list of, here are the rules.
Okay.
Versus
And that's ultimately what I want to get.
then I would suggest. So bring it back to next week.
And I can work with supervisors and
That's an issue.
You'll be fine.
Going forward, if that's what you guys think is the best way to do it, I'm there.
Don't think I hear any something that in so with that we're gonna ask that we do that, and I will make sure that it's on the agenda and it's statute is. Oh, yeah, you did. Oh, it is. All right, so we're gonna close this item then.
Yes, thank you, Bill.
Great, thank you. All right, so that closes item number 9 on the agenda. We're done. We're opening item number 10, Sheriff's Report.
Good evening. Jail counts, 214. So it's a little bit less than what we have seen recently. We've had a pretty active 3 weeks. You all have maybe monitored the news. March 11th, we assisted with a tactical call out in the city of Amro. Took into custody a suspect that has been charged with homicide. He did fire rounds in the vicinity of our perimeter deputies. Was taken into custody without incident shortly after. March 18th, we had a double homicide on Metsick Road. That suspect was taken into custody after an attempt to locate his put shortly after his arrest. The fraud school that I talked about, we will be hosting the first class, but I'm going to do it with the department heads. They're going to be my guinea pig. So that is scheduled and will be held on April 20th. And then I will offer it up to anyone, it'll be offered to the public as well. We plan on doing as many classes as necessary. We'll actually, actively have people freeze their, credit scores if they desire, talk about the current schemes and scams that are occurring. The fraud cases that we're getting are much increased from what we had even seen last year.
And when are you gonna do that first one?
Department head meeting will be, our department heads will be ready to this. Our True Narc arrived, unit that has the ability to test drugs, without taking them out of their packaging. So next step is to get trained, and then we will do a demo for treatments. Hopefully, the May meeting. Subscriber units for the radio replacement have been all sent to finance for processing of that order. We can expect about a 60 to 90 day window before they're delivered. We're still working with some minor details on the order, but we're going to come in below, right at the original amount of finance it has to add 10%. We're going to come in not using that 10% and right at that in there. The next JPS meeting will review budget variances. Our final budget came in. I'm just going off the recollection, but I think it was 93% expenses and 87%. So right in the normal, where we are normally, revenues were a little bit lower than normal. And then we'll send out a report in advance, and then if you could give me your questions ahead of time. I don't have to necessarily answer them. I can answer them together, but it's a better indication of what you're looking for with explanations. We are down to, we're making some headway with staffing. We have 7 vacancies in the deputy position in the jail, 3 in the 911 center. Our paid internship program that we started, we have 3 in that pipeline. So May 1st, we'll be down to 4. Well, I should say May 1st. Right when they graduate, they will become full-time deputy positions. So we've seen success there. We're going to have some retirements at the end of the year, so I'm going to gain some loose some. But it's getting better. That's really it for the sheriff's report.
Any questions of the sheriff? Yes, one question.
For the fraud prevention classes, are you going to be partnering up with organizations like the Senior Center and the Fox Valley Memory Project to give some sort of instructions to people who may be more at risk to this kind of fraud?
Yes. Okay. Once we get very well versed in everything that we're doing, to make sure that we are explaining it in a manner that everyone understands. So yes, we will be reaching out to certain groups specifically and going there to present.
And who is going to be facilitating this? Is this like someone from the sheriff?
Yeah. Yeah, Mike Sewell, who you met, he is our ICAC investigator, but extremely versed in fraudulent crimes and internet schemes, and very effective.
And he's a great communicator.
Yes. And then there's 2 other detectives that will be assisting as well, who are trained in the white collar crimes.
And then I'm asking more because I'm so after the guinea pig session, you know, and what do you foresee this being in terms of rolling it out to the public?
Well, I think we're going to operate a couple times a month, probably like at 6 p.m. to, we're hoping to do with it within 2 or 3 hours. So at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. a couple times a month, as often as we need to.
Like starting in the summer, or do you think it's going to be after?
No, it'll be during the summer.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll want to hit up as many as possible. We're trying to make this very difficult. for, People who want, it has happened to people where, they've gotten into bank accounts and withdrawn money. We're still trying to figure it out. Because it is, anytime you open up, so I'm not questioning anybody that has a direct pay bill, so your public service bill or whatever. You've opened up now a portal to your bank account when you do it. So I'm not saying they're not secure, but saying you open a portal. And, yeah.
no, I have the same, so I had a mother who I cared and she's constant. She's constantly getting these. And it's so stuff. Like even sometimes I have to.
Yep. They only use that ingenuity for good.
Right? For public service.
Yes.
Any other questions on the sheriff report? Supervisor, Benson, do you mind?
Yeah.
One.
Quick, policy review, I'm remembering. The Citizens Academy is coming up very soon, isn't it? It is. It will start in August. Right? I was thinking it was. No, it's like August, September, October.
It's still on Tuesdays?
I think we're gonna change. We're looking at it.
Yeah. So I think any other day besides Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then isn't there, refresh my memory, isn't there in May an annual recognition ceremony?
There is. It is. What day? Okay. Yes.
Just email that to me.
I'll email it to all of you. We do have our annual recognition event, May 16th, at the convention center. Time, 11 o'clock. We have a number of awards.
11 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes, couple of years ago, I think a few years ago, I know that, here in
Yes.
Yeah. We use that also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, we use it at the courthouse. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was for. We use it at the courthouse to monitor a demonstration. We haven't used it. I don't know if we've used it in a tactical situation yet or not. I can't answer that for sure. We did not use it at the Omro one. That all transpired very quickly. Everybody could see within but an hour and a half. It was more about containing him rather than doing the normal long-term tactical.
Okay. And, that one is at courthouse, that, the ad hoc finish.
Yes.
And the rate on or?
I don't know that we've used, the range R yet. But I know we used,
And there's not some new supervisor on this point.
Sure, the Agile Mesh is a camera system that allows us to place cameras to monitor a tactical fallout or in this case it was a demonstration. We can monitor it remotely from our command post or from a different location. The other piece of equipment allows us to basically thermal image through walls to see people inside a building so we can locate them and know that what room they're in. Because it's heat, a little different than thermal.
allows us to do that, for the safety of our deputies.
And if I recall correctly, most of that, you need a search warrant in order to use that.
I don't think so, because you're not, entering the curtilage of someone's property, but, it would be an emergent type thing where exigent circumstances would allow you to enter the house and we're not gonna just use it. Like in the case of the guy in Amro who had, was charged with killing his girlfriend. That's an exigent circumstance where, we have other people that are in immediate danger. So using that would not require a warrant. Entering his home would not require a warrant if it's exigent type situation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna close number 10, you can stay right there, and we're gonna open up, discussion on item number 11 of the agenda. Yeah, so I actually stated, I said May, this is one of those option things. What this is going to be is going to be very specific and focused in the conversation. And if I feel like we're getting off the deep end, then I am gonna actually, we'll ask for, time to come up with information. With that, we're gonna open up item 11, discussion, highway 41 and 110, traffic report.
I know I talked about this at the last meeting and.
May I speak for?
Sure.
Please.
I pursued discussion of this item at the request of Supervisor Becky Nichols of District 2. She had forwarded an email to me, which also went to the chairman and to the sheriff. And she asked me to read this. Thanking the Sheriff Marks for assisting municipalities with the transition to expanded patrol within their boundaries. Significant resources have been invested at the local level to assume this responsibility. While this may be common practice in neighboring counties, it is new to Winnebago County. Because we don't yet know the complete impact on community. It is my belief that all organizations involved should be briefed periodically to assess the new policy and determine whether or not Winnebago County can resume 41 State Highway 10 or 41 patrol. It is especially appropriate to meet the municipal agency at or near the end of the trial period. It will also assist all agencies in determining funding levels for 2024 and beyond. So the Sheriff's Department commits to working with municipalities to periodically evaluate the policy with the goal of resuming patrol responsibilities in the quarter. That was the communication that the supervisor with Nichols, District 2, asked to communicate. He lives at 402 Elm Street in Nashua. He is also alderperson of District 1 for the city of Nashua, when she's at a pretty powerful meeting of this as we speak. So I'll refer to the sheriff, and I also have commentary that I can supplement the.
Well, yeah, to answer that, yes. I mean, I worked with the chiefs on notifying them in December. We've done as of April 1st, we've done a co-response, meaning that they will respond to the call for service in that new jurisdiction, and we will be there in a supplementary role And then effective July first, they will, take over, the primary responsibility in those areas. But, what we're trying to accomplish is making sure we, provide a level of service to, the unincorporated areas of Winnebago County, which is our primary jurisdiction. But, and just to back up a little bit, our county is broken up into 5 different patrol areas. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all areas that have Highway 41 or 441 in their jurisdiction or in their primary responsibility. So when our squad leaves to go to town of Rushford or town of Utica or Huygen, that puts us that much further away from Highway 41. So we're not giving the appropriate amount of patrol and response to those rural areas. And for the municipalities and the villages that aren't currently or were not currently handling the calls for service in what is their jurisdiction, it was just been a service provided by the sheriff's office for however long, right? That's the beginning of time. As I stated before, Sheriff Brooks had looked at changing it, opted not to. But I did speak to him about this, which he could have done it back then. When those municipalities and those villages annex property and it crosses over into across the 41 or across 441, they're taking tax space on the other side, but they're not taking the responsibility that they just assumed when they annexed all of that property. So I understand the concerns. We're not going to abandon, as I stated in the email I had sent, we're not abandoning 441, 10, or 41. As a matter of fact, what we're going to do is create 4 areas instead of 5. We're going to have a car that will basically be a 441 squad. So it will be responsible for enforcement. It'll be responsible for responding to the calls for service in our primary jurisdictions in those areas and assisting those other agencies. But that responsibility is theirs. When you look at other counties that are similarly situated, the municipalities and villages take those roads that they're responsible for.
Thank you. Well, I've read the National Police Chief's reply to the sheriff's operation audit, as well as the whether that particular chief. I assume it went to other chiefs as well. I consulted with the village of Fox Crossing administration and their police chief, and I read the sheriff's statistics over the past 5 years of the level of traffic for each of the municipalities. So far as the presentation and the request for discussion, I assume the objective to help ease the transition to municipal responsibility. From the discussions that I gleaned from the correspondence of the chief from Menasha and my discussion with the chief of Fox Crossing, I think they all are accepting of the responsibility for the municipality, assuming the work that previously was primarily assumed by the sheriff's office. The concern in particular from the Fox Crossing chief was that his assumption is going to require them to hire 2 additional deputies to pick up that extra work. I know that Sheriff said that you continue it, you will come 4 deputies. Is that what you said?
No, it'd be two deputies, one AM, one PM, but when you do the shift relief factor, yeah, that is times, 3. So that's 6, and that would be the same thing for him. So, it, it depends on what, I don't know what their schedule is. You have to cover days off, you have to cover vacations. So if you want consistent coverage, it just can't be two people. This is a 24-hour operation.
Well, at this point in time, the only, thing left is, to mitigate the budget cycle impact, of the primary responsibility. And, I have heard the sheriff assure that providing training, that's necessary with, the responsibilities that, will assume, that they have proper equipment. There are additional equipment that, could be provided from, reserves of county. For
The equipment should have been already purchased. They knew what it was. There's not, I mean, it's not a lot. There's some cones that you need to have. There's certain height that create traffic incident management areas, crash scenes, some road flares, make sure that everybody has a safety vest. So it's really not that extensive.
and of course, a backup commitment. I think you explained that there are sections of, Highway 41, unincorporated areas that you still assume responsibility for.
We'll still have the Butte Bridge, which creates a lot of calls and very complex ones for us sometimes. So that is still our responsibility. Everything from 21 up to Breezewood is still ours. Everything south of 44 is still ours. So that's why that car will be on 41. Not only handling the calls for service in our primary area, but assisting with the other areas as well.
And I also, have in mind that, good, municipal representatives, feel the need to express publicly their situation, they would have to form, so, only other question left would be, is there, some practical financial assistance that, county and the sheriff's office could, share with, assuming, municipalities, as, they are in the midst of their budget, and so that all of the added expenses, the additional expenses on top of their budget, expenses.
Well, what you would be asking for is for us to pay for what is their responsibility. And that defies common sense. And this has been their responsibility for, I mean, since they annexed across the road and, we use City of Oshkosh. Once they crossed over, US Highway 41, or now Interstate 41, that became their jurisdiction. So, no, I would not reimburse them for their costs. So what is their responsibility?
Well, according to the email I received from, the supervisor, Nichols, also received that too. So that, any of those other questions that you, had before, you're capable of addressing.
Sure.
Should you want more detail? I think I've submitted to that.
Sounds good. Just, I'm gonna just add two really quick things. I do want to set the record straight. You did bring this up in an update in June. And, I think when we first heard about this, was expressed from Supervisor, Nichols, I think our response as a committee was, oh, I don't remember this. And you did, so I want to make sure that that's, we set that record. The other thing is, as I went, as you, I went to that meeting, us, and he wanted to go to. And I spoke with the chief of police, Alina, chief of police, as well as Mayor Lane. And, one thing that I found really interesting that I didn't recognize, I didn't realize, the short is that Nina's overall totally on board. But one of the comments that the chief made was when it, I thought was interesting, when it no longer became feasible for Nina PD and Menasha PD to staff our front desks during the night hours, we transferred that responsibility to sheriff's dispatch. The sheriff could have said no. So I feel like sometimes we always get the complaints, and we don't really see all of the things that happen and what we do from accounting to help everybody. And I thought it was a really nice thing to mention, especially since I had no idea this was going on. So I think we need to balance that.
Right. Same thing is happening with Fox Crossing. So we take their after hours calls too. So I said this a while ago, it was in passing, but the sharing of resources is something that is inevitable. It is something that we will have to do merely because there aren't enough eligible workers to fill all our positions. We are going to have to stop with that's not mine, that's yours. We're gonna have to share resources. It's just one way of doing something. We'll still be there.
This may be moved, and Sheriff, we will not attend. If it were to remain solely the Sheriff's Department, we had a brief discussion at one JPS and he was knowledge that it would be six deputies. Realistically, then, budgetary as far as the Winnebago County is concerned, salaries, equipment, and maybe possibly recruiting, we're really looking at about 750,000 plus that would need to be absorbed. So you're not going to tell me if you tell me like, okay, I understand the hard conversation needs to happen even with Winnebago County working municipalities. We just want to make sure that as we do that, am I even in the ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the approximate labor costs to include benefits and overtime. But I also think that I don't want to put the unnecessary burden on the taxpayer when I think we could do this with the resources that we have for all of the agencies.
People being very transparent about this. I think not enough people.
Great. With that, we are, thank you very much. Sure. We're going to close in 11. And then move on to item 12, which is the next meeting date. So the next meeting date as we have discussed is deadline for examination is May, Monday, April 17th. Again, because a reminder, this is the deadline for contact myself and corporation counsel. So we have time to develop all these wage resolutions and discussion points ahead of the. So if something comes in a day or so after the 17th, certainly, but we need to have as much as we can, so we allow sufficient time to do their due diligence. If they're productive meeting. Okay, with that, for the 12, and I'm looking for item 13, and adjournment. Okay. All in favor, Gavin? All opposed? All right, that passes. Thank you very